So I heard about it in the news and I saw it in my Facebook feed, and all I saw were a bunch of cars gathered up on the highway, all stuck. Everybody was stuck. And this happened in the States. I think it was Virginia. Uh, you've probably seen this in the news within the last maybe a few days or so. It really depends when I post this video, right? But I saw it and I'm thinking, wow, that's like incredible. They were stuck there for 15 hours, and there were some reports that some people were stuck there for up to 24 hours. Now that's a really long time. And one of the first things I thought of, because I'm in a van, right? I thought, wow, that would be like an opportunity for me to sort of just pull over safely somewhere and kind of chill right out, you know what I mean, and just relax. And I started thinking about what are the advantages of having a minivan or a mini camper van, and what are the costs involved with having one, and how difficult is it to put together. And I had all these questions, and I'm going to attempt to try to answer some of those questions in sort of like a van build 101 to, like, well, here are the advantages of having a van. So stick with me for the next little while. And just one thing, if you like this video, please like it. And if afterwards, or maybe after you're moseying around my playlist here in my channel, moseying around, if you think it's worthy, please subscribe. I would really appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about the situation with what happened at the highway. So people were stuck. They were stuck in the highway, and some of them ran out of fuel. And I can guess why they ran out of fuel, because first of all, they need to stay warm. You're out in the highway, middle of nowhere. You've got no place to stay warm except maybe your car. You've got no place to eat unless you brought some stuff. And this is where I guess having an emergency kit is really important. Whether you do van life or anything, right? If you're anywhere, you should have some kind of emergency kit for your car, like the standard first aid, maybe some warm blankets and some flares, something that'll help you out when you're caught in a jam. Flashlight is always good too. But they sell kits everywhere. I know in Canada here we have Canadian Tire, Walmart, things like that you could get these little things. You can even get them on Amazon. But anyway, so people ran out of fuel. They were literally stuck there 24 hours, and they must have been freezing their butts off. One of my first thoughts were, what if you have to go pee? You know what I mean? When you jump over to the side and you're doing your business and people are kind of looking at you. Anyway, as for me here, I have an emergency porta potty, so I'm okay. But going back to this whole thing about what happened, was there was an impasse and they were stuck. So it's pretty clear we're talking about people stuck in their vehicles. And the advantage for me is if I ever got stuck there, and by the way, I have gotten stuck where I was driving, there was an accident, and so what I did was I pulled over safely to the side and I just waited out. Or in most cases, I just find the nearest exit and I would exit out of there and find myself a gas station or another place to park, and I just waited out. And when you're in a van like this, there's a lot of things you could do. So what can you do in a van? Well, the number one thing I do in this van, out of anything, is probably take a nap. So most of you already know I work full-time, right? And during my lunch breaks, during my breaks, I like to take a nap. I'll have something small to eat, and then I just take a nap. I just stretch out. I've got a little bed system here going that I've changed about 4 or 5 times, but I can literally take a 15-20 minute nap. And also I've slept everywhere. I've slept at campgrounds, I've slept at rest stops, parking lots, driveways. I'm sort of like in my own little world in here, my little fortress of solitude. So that's one thing I do in my van, is I can take a nap. So if ever I was in a situation where I was stuck somewhere, I'd probably end up taking a nap. But there's other things that I would do as well. Yeah, I would. That's right. If you don't want to take a nap, you can just pretty much just veg out, just relax and just look out the window. Right now I'm facing my side door and I can look out the window, you know, see what's happening, just sit down and relax. And that's one thing I do, is I just sort of sit down and relax, contemplate life. I do other things. For example, I have a notebook, I have a journal, and what I do there is I write short stories for me. And I've been asked, you know, people have asked me, oh, are you going to publish it? Well, no, not at this time. It's just something that I write for me, more of a therapeutic thing, because I like to write short stories. They're not very good, but for me, they're fun. So I write short stories. I also write down my goals, things that where I want to be in the next 5 hours, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. So I have goals, so I have something to look forward to, right? So I do some writing as well. What other things do I do in my van? You know, I recognize that this van has become sort of like my sort of crafts thing. I don't know how to explain it. Sort of like it's become something that I love to add on. I love to make look nice, but at the same time is useful and functional. And before I started this, I couldn't cut a straight line if my life depended on it. Now I can cut any type of plywood or 2x4 with accuracy, and it's straight and it's flush. And this is something that I developed over time. And I mean, right now, nothing in this van really lines up properly, because it's sort of like everything was sort of like built up as materials became available. So that's one thing about this van. For example, I'll mention it, I always mention it, the ceiling, okay? The ceiling was from a dumpster dive, and it's a really, to me, it's a great facade, makes the place look warmer, nicer, gives it a different vibe. So I'm very happy about the ceiling. But I learned how to sort of plan things out. I have previous videos where I show how to make certain things, right? And then at that point, I then carry it out, and then it feels good to make stuff. Other things that I do is I put some decorations here and there, like the lights. The lights are a big thing. So I find that it's become sort of like a creative outlet for me. So that's one thing about this van that I'm enjoying. And look, it's starting to snow. You know, another thing that I do in my van is I read. You know, knowing that I can just sort of drop off anywhere, I could sort of pull over anywhere, park anywhere, and no one will bother me. Yeah, no one will bother me. I'm literally in my fortress of solitude. And then there's a huge value in that. There's really is a huge value in that. Being able to go somewhere, knowing that there's a very, very low likelihood that you're going to get disturbed. So I can read, and I've been reading some great books. You know, all this stuff I'm talking about is everything you can do at home so far, right? And all this stuff I'm talking about right now is something that you could do if ever you were unfortunately stuck in traffic. So you'd be prepared. So what else can you do in your van if you're stuck in traffic, or you've got nothing to do, or yeah, so the subject was if you're stuck in traffic. Well, you know, I set up my van in such a way so that I could actually bake. I can bake pizza. And if I'm smart enough, if I'm diligent enough, I'll probably put up a link where you can click on it, and you'll see where I was able to make some pizza. Everything from custom-made pizza, rather handmade pizza, where it was in a pan. I think I did make a video on that. And also anything that would be frozen as well. I could cook with that. So I just have a small stove, right? And I have a casserole, and it creates this sort of baking effect. And I've got a grill at the bottom, so it works out pretty good. So I can cook in my van. And you know, one other thing, when it comes to cooking in your van, it's a bit tricky, okay? One thing you have to make sure is you have proper airflow. Make sure you have carbon monoxide detector. You have safety. For example, I'll have a fire extinguisher. I have first aid kit. And when I do cook, I make sure that there's proper airflow, because you definitely don't want to get hurt or pass out as you're cooking. Now, my preference is cooking outdoors or with the side door completely open. That's my preference. But a lot of times, if I have to, one of the things I cook is water. I boil water, and with water, there's all kinds of things you could do. You can make coffee, hot chocolate, you can have tea, and if you like soups, those noodles, you can make those noodle soups. There's also other ways you could buy certain things where you can boil the food and then take it out of the packet, and then you can eat it. So you can cook in your van. One can cook in their van as long as you follow some safety precautions. You know, for me, I've been fortunate to be able to get unlimited internet. Granted, it is slow, right? But it's fast enough that I can watch movies via Netflix. So Netflix, Disney Plus, things like that. I can surf the internet. I could upload my movies, this video, but it takes so long. So I prefer actually finding a Wi-Fi spot where I can upload it. But for the most part, you can watch movies and just sort of relax. For me, I like watching documentaries. I like to learn stuff. And I'm also on Facebook, right? I'm in a few of the Facebook groups. I like to get involved. I like to get a sense of, what people are doing, what's important to people, and that's how I learn. And I've also found out that I find people with different viewpoints, and I like to learn, why do you feel that way? And a majority of the time, it works out pretty good. There have been situations where I've seen people kind of really get upset and argue about certain points, and I thought, wow, I better enable the scroll function at this point. So I do go to groups, community groups, websites, things like that. So that's one thing I can do in my van. The other thing that I do in my van is I do my planning. I plan out certain parts of my build to see how I can improve. And so far, my build has been continually improving. My van build originally started as a no build. I didn't have any of this stuff. And then as materials became available, I started adding to it. And as my skill set, which is still growing, by the way, got better, I started sort of taking on a little more complex projects. So now I feel that I can take on just about any project and build it out safely. My next goal is, if I were to go any further, is probably get some certification on how to build this stuff safely in a proper way. I mean, there's so many things that you could do, but I mean, it's like it's an interest for me. I don't even think I'll go for it, but I do have other certifications. I know I'm a heavy machine operator, and I'm also a trainer. So if you ever want to learn how to use a forklift, let me know. But I understand certain things about machines, and I'm an amateur mechanic, but there's a lot of things I want to do. So my van has become sort of like my little study hut. This is where, if I want to learn something, if I have an internet connection, I could learn it from here. And before, I used to go to the library, but now I just stay in my van. If I get bored, I just go outside, go for a walk. If I want to change my scenery, like right now I'm looking out and I'm just looking out at a parking lot at a big box store area. So I could just move and go somewhere nice. Granted, I always prefer going up north where it's beautiful, it's wilderness. So, but I can't always do that just because, I also have to work and I have to be reasonable with what I'm trying to do. But you know what? One day, I always say it on this channel, one day I'm going to be heading out west, and you'll see. And I hope to bring you guys with me. Okay, I think that's about it. Those are most of the things that I do in my van. This is something that a van is so useful, especially when you get stuck somewhere, or if you're waiting for somebody, you can sort of just chill out at the back. For me, because of the whole pandemic thing, right? When I buy a meal, I eat it in here. I already have my little table. I have an area for me to sit quietly. It's like a little, restaurant kind of thing, right? A little cozy restaurant for me, okay? Built around me and how I operate. So that's another useful thing about a van is, it's with you all the time. It's like you're like a little turtle, right? You're like a turtle, and you've got your home on your back. So you can go just about anywhere. You want to change your scenery, just drive out somewhere beautiful. You want to go to the city, you could do that too. You want to sort of just sit down and just chill out and stare off into nothingness, like what I'm doing now, you could do that too. So there's a lot of things you could do. So Anyway, guys, the video's pretty much done. If you like the video, please like it. If you think it's worthy, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, just chime in at the bottom. When I see a comment, I do my best to reply to it, or at least address it, right? I'm not a big channel at all, so I have the time to actually do these things. And aside from that, I think that's about it. Oh, and one more thing. I always say this at the end of my videos. Maybe some people think it's kind of like cringy or whatever, but you know what? I don't think there's anything cringy about reminding yourself that you're awesome. There's nothing cringy about that. To me, I think it's important to always tell yourself, if I get up, if I start something, it doesn't have to be a big start. It could be like a small start. You just got to start small, and then you can build up from there and turn it into a habit. And remind yourself, you're awesome. You could do stuff if you plan it out. If you sort of like really try a bit more, make it a habit to do something small each day, you'll eventually get to where you want to be. You may not get there really, really fast. It really depends how much time and effort you put into it. But if you do it bit by bit, you'll get it done. And this entire van was built over a course of almost 2 years. And to this day, I'm still building it out. I've changed things so many times. And this van still has some of the cardboard I used because at the time I didn't have the materials to actually build with. So, be patient with yourself especially, and take your time being awesome, okay? Yeah, I believe that. Okay, guys, hopefully I put on the music, and thanks very much, and hope to see you again. Hey guys, so I just realized I named off a bunch of things that I do in my van, which is useful hopefully, and it gives you some ideas. No surprise, right? It's comfy, it's very useful. But one thing I didn't get into that I did mention at the beginning of this video was how much it costs to build, and maybe some other details, things like that. Unfortunately, I've run out of time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can create another video at some point and sort of talk about the cost of this build, maybe parts of this build, why I built it the way it is. And one thing I am really considering is getting the time, making the time, or finding that time to do a proper van tour. I did do a van tour when I started, and it was okay. It wasn't that great, and I've yet to actually do a good van tour of what I've done here that I'm really happy with. I think part of it is because I don't know what to show exactly and how to go about it. Like, I have an idea, but I just haven't committed. But you know what? That'll be a 2022 goal, to do a legit, proper van tour that is useful, that gives you an idea of what I've done here. And yeah, hopefully you guys like it. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have a great day. And there you have it. Please support my channel by commenting and subscribing. It's free, and it can help you with your own tiny home build, as I will be giving out free tips and tricks on how you can make it happen. And if you believe someone else may benefit, please share the video of my curated playlist.